नमस्कार। श्री Ramakrishna Kathamrita. तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भुरिदा जनाः। श्री Ramakrishna Kathamrita प्रथम भाग चतुर्थ खंडो षष्ठ परिच्छेद. The reading from sixth chapter is still going on, and Sri Ramakrishna has told us that what is the difference between Bojjat Ami, the wretched ego, the rascal ego, how it doesn't get destroyed unless and until we have the state of samadhi, but which is extremely difficult. It is extremely difficult to take the mind to the seventh plane. You can take the mind up to here, but even till the stage of ajna, the ego is not gone. And till that wretched ego doesn't go, we can't lose the I-ness. There is still that differentiation between me and you. There is still the differentiation. There is still difference between the small I and the big I. Because the ego has still existed up to here. Till there is a dvaita, there cannot be a dvaita. And then listening to all this talk of Sri Ramakrishna about how this unripe ego, how this rascal ego, how this wretched ego is so much persistent. Vijay Krishna Goswami now says, he says, যদি ওহম না গেলে সংসারে আসক্তি যাবে না, সমাধি হবে না, তাহলে ব্রহ্মজ্ঞানের পথ অবলম্বন করাই ভালো, যাতে সমাধি হয়। আর ভক্তি যোগে যদি ওহম থাকে তবে জ্ঞান যোগেই ভালো। Now this is the easiest way Vijay Krishna Goswami is feeling, that unless and until if we don't get Brahmajnan, if we don't have the God realization, the self-realization, till then, if this wretched ego is not going to be destroyed, then it is better to follow that path only, isn't it? Why, dwell in these planes of bhakti, that at the plane of heart you are getting the divine, you are seeing the divine light. When your mind reaches the plane of throat, the Vishuddha Chakra, you start only talking about God, listening about God, nothing else but God, God. But that ego still persists. And as you bring your mind here, you get the vision, but you can't touch the Lord, you can't touch the Divine Mother. The ego is still there. So this is what Vijay Krishna Goswami has started thinking. If that is the case, then let us have a bypass surgery. Why go through all these, the hassles? Straightway take the mind to seventh plane. Get the Brahmajnana and get rid of this wretched ego, which has kept us attached to the samsara, to the worldly enjoyments. Why have all this, intermediary path? আর ভক্তি যোগে যদি অহম থাকে তবে জ্ঞান যোগ ভালো। And in spite of getting into the hassles of bhakti yoga, chanting the name of God, having the vision, praying to the God, having faith and devotion in the mother, in spite of that, if this ego still remains, then it is better to follow the path of knowledge. straightway jump from our Manipur chakra, from the plane of navel, and get into the seventh plane, Jnana Yoga. Realize the God, realize what is the ultimate knowledge, get the ultimate truth, get to know the ultimate truth, and destroy the ego once for all. Why these hassles of going through the path of bhakti, path of devotion? So that is one very relevant doubt Vijay Krishna Goswami has raised for Sri Ramakrishna to answer. And now Sri Ramakrishna is giving his answer to Vijay's comments, to Vijay's query. To Vijay is saying that straightway let us get into Jnana Yoga, no hassles of Bhakti Yoga, attain the Brahmajnana and get rid of the ego once for all. Now Sri Ramakrishna says, দুই একটি লোকের সমাধি হয়ে অহম যায় বটে কিন্তু প্রায় যায় না. He says, just one or two among the millions following this path can get rid of their ego after attaining the stage of samadhi. Normally, it is extremely difficult to first to reach that stage, and therefore, uh, normally, praya, joina. Normally, the ego doesn't get destroyed. People don't reach the millions may try, hardly one or two. Remember that song Sri Ramakrishna used to sing? That mother in the busy marketplace, Mother Shama is flying the kites. And out of those 100,000 kites, hardly one or two will get free. And then the mother starts clapping, seeing her kite getting free, seeing her child getting free. And then that kite lands on the other shore, extreme shore of the ocean of this Bhoshagar. That is what happens. Sri Ramakrishna is saying hardly one or two among millions who try that path can attain samadhi and succeed in getting rid of the ego. Normally it doesn't happen. Hajar bichar koro. Ohom ফিরে ঘুরে এসে উপস্থিত. How 1,000 times you may say, I have no ego, I have no ego, I have no ego, but this wretched ego is so bad. It is so adamant that you may feel it has gone, but you don't know from which nook and corner of the mind this enters again and catches hold of you. So that is what that is why Sri Ramakrishna says, prior joina, this doesn't get destroyed so easily. Ajo অশ্বত্থ গাছ কেটে দাও, কাল আবার সকালে দেখো ভ্যাঁকুড়ি বেরিয়েছি. You cut the tree of ashwatha, of the banyan. You may think I have cut everything. You may think I have just destroyed this tree, uprooted this tree once for all. But no, tomorrow morning you go and see there that small sprout. You will again see that is the mighty tree of Ashwatha. It is extremely difficult to uproot that tree totally. You may uproot the top portion, something. Next day, you will find at the same spot a small sprout is beautifully coming up. It has germinated and another tree is going to take shape there in the future. That is ego. So Sri Ramakrishna says, একান্ত যদি আমি যাবে না থাক শালা দাস আমি হয়ে. Now Sri Ramakrishna says, finally, if this ego it doesn't get destroyed in totality. Like Ashwatha tree, it will creep, it will grow in some corner. If that is what is going to happening, then Sri Ramakrishna is giving a beautiful solution to that. What he says, Thak Shala Dash Ami Hoye. Convert that remaining ego into a Das ego, into a servant ego. Das Ami. Convert that wretched ego, that unripe ego into a servant ego. Let your ego remain. Then it will never harm you. So you attain that attitude. You get rid of, fine. Ego is not going to be destroyed. Hardly one or two among millions and millions reach that stage of samadhi where they can totally destroy the ego, become one with him. But it doesn't happen. So what? Now Sri Ramakrishna is showing us the way how to remain in this world with the ego. Sri Ramakrishna says, if that is not, if the I does not go, let that rascal remain. Remain, let it remain. Fine, accept the fact that yes, that ego cannot be destroyed. But then you convert that ego. You make that ego into a servant ego. Now, what does this mean by servant ego? Sri Ramakrishna tells that also. Hey Ishwar, তুমি প্রভু আমি দাস এইভাবে থাকো. Then you remain in this world with that ego, with the attitude of being a servant. Oh Lord, hey Ishwar, তুমি প্রভু, you are the master. Oh mother, you are the mistress. And আমি das, I am your poor servant. Let the ego be of that servant ego, humble, docile, just filled with faith and devotion. Instead of the qualities of arrogance and jealousy and pride and anger, and also the negative qualities like frustration, in fact, arrogance, all these are also negative qualities, but they take you at a certain plane. Losing your mind, of course, all these qualities, losing your mind. But they also can be frustration, despondency, they can lead you. So instead of all those things, just become a servant of the master, a child of the mother. Yes, so easy. That I is not going to get destroyed. Convert that convert that rascal into a servant I. Amidas, Ami Bhakto, I am servant. I am your devotee, O Lord. Erup Ami te dosh noe. If you keep your eye in this manner, I am the servant of the master. He is the master. Hanuman. Hmm? That was the Das Ami. That was the Das. That was the servant ego in Hanuman. For him, Rama was the ultimate master. He was just a servant. And Hanuman attained self-realization, keeping that servant ego. There is a saying that once Hanuman was asked, uh, Sri Ram asked Hanuman, that Hanuman, how do you consider yourself and me? And Hanuman replied, look, Lord, when I think of me as your servant, when I have that servant ego, I'm your servant, you are my master. And when I keep on progressing on this path of thinking me as your servant, then a stage comes when I'm a part of you. I become a part of you. I don't become you. I become a part of you. Then Hanuman reaches the stage of Vishishtadvaita. And then when I further progress on this path, when I'm further moving on this path, when I keep on meditating on this servant I and Lord Rama, then a stage comes when I lose my I consciousness, I become one with you. Then I become Advaita. So it starts with Dvaita. So Sri Ramakrishna says, follow this path of bhakti, devotion, convert this ego into a servant ego, into the ego of a devotee. Yes, it is a beautiful path. I am the devotee of the Lord. I am the servant of my master. And a stage will come when I and the master, I, servant I, and the master, they will become one. When the devotee and the divine Lord become one. Erup Ami Te Doshnoi. Now, retaining this kind of ego, there is no harm in it, Sri Ramakrishna says. There is nothing wrong in retaining this I as a servant, this I as a devotee. Mishta khele ombol hoye. কিন্তু মিছরি মিষ্টির মধ্যে নয়. Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example of you keep on eating the sweet meats, you will get into acidity. But a sugar candy, hmm, a solid, that form of sugar that comes. Uh, Sugar candy in Marathi we call it khadi sakar. It is like a rock like sugar, not our ordinary sugar which is processed and all that. But that sugar, that sugar candy, it doesn't come into the category of sweets which result in creating acidity in our system. So you keep on eating that sugar candy, no harm. Likewise, Sri Ramakrishna says, you keep on, you retain the ego, but retain this servant ego, retain this devotee ego, retain this child ego, and then there is nothing that can harm you. So that is where now we will stop today, and let us start enjoying the sugar candy rather than eating the sweet meats prepared with sugar and get into the problem of acidity and all other health problems. So let us have this servant ego, let us have this child ego, let us have this devotee ego and follow on this path. And Sri Ramakrishna assures us that on this path it will be very easy to get the self realization through this path also. And then once you get that self realization, there is no question of any ego. But till then, keep this ego controlled as the servant ego, Das Ami, Bhakto Ami. So that is Sri Ramakrishna's teaching in our today's reading. So with that, we stop our reading here for the day. Om Namah Shri Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Thakur, Jai Ma, Jai Swamiji.